effective elevator pitch. Madam Chair, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests. Today I have the privilege of telling you a bit about elevator pitches. I've heard a few. First I'll define them. An elevator pitch is a 30-second speech that an entrepreneur gives to usually a prospective customer or a prospective investor. And it's called an elevator pitch because you have about 30 seconds to do it, typically how long it takes to go up about a 20-story building. So I've seen a lot of pitches I've been fortunate to see. Been involved in the New Ventures VC competition for 15 years. We see 100 to 150 pitches a year. 20 years with the Mantech Angel Network where we see 8 to 10 pitches a month. And then I was even involved in the early days with the Dragon's Den where we helped them film their pilot here in Vancouver where I recruited some of the companies I was working with. And I even sat in as a dragon for a couple of days, which was a great experience. I can share that. One of the companies I saw earlier on in this experience was Sierra Wireless, which is a fairly major tech company here in town. And when they started, they were just two guys, literally in a garage, spinning out of a company called NPR Teltech. And the co-founder, Greg Asen, came to pitch to our group, successfully raised some capital and ultimately raised venture capital and then went public, and now it's $1 billion company. But what they did well was they used 6 key elements in their speech, and that's what I want to go over today. Before I do that, though, I want to share a quote, which I think is key to an elevator pitch. And that's by Blaise Pascal. And it's actually misattributed oftentimes to Mark Twain, who will come up later in my story. So Pascal said, "I wrote you a long letter because I didn't have time to write you a short one instead." So I'll just repeat that because I think it's key to communication, and especially elevator pitches. He said, "I wrote you a long letter because I didn't have time to write you a short one instead." The point is that brevity is important. Succinctness is key to every form of communication, but especially elevator pitches. Now, what are these 6 elements? So the 6 elements are, number 1, state what you do in 1 or 2 sentences, less than 5 seconds. Number 2, define the problem it is that your product or solution solves. Number 3, explain the solution. Then number 4, describe why your company. Number 5, state why you're going to win, how you're going to win. Then number 6, the important part, to close, what it is you want from your audience. So you would think that the first point, what your company does, would be really simple, but it's actually very difficult. To boil that down to 1 or 2 sentences can take quite a long time to actually do that. Assuming you can get to that, the second point where you define the problem, again, the second most difficult element of the 6. The most difficult is the solution. But defining the problem can be difficult because a lot of entrepreneurs are starting a new company with new customers, new products. Oftentimes they don't know who their customer is and how they're going to use it. So defining the problem can be really, really difficult depending on who your audience is. And then the solution, which is the toughest part, as I mentioned. So you told me what you do, you define the problem, now comes the solution. So when you describe the solution, it's difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs because it's a new thing usually. And they can't help it, and they don't know who the customer is, and so they can't help but go all over the place about what it can do and why it can solve all the world's problems, but you must be succinct. So now you've told me what you do, you define the problem, give me a solution. So why would I care? So now, depending on who your audience is, if they're an investor audience, they want to hear that this is a massive market, they're going to invest and make tons of money, that's why they care. But if it's a customer that you're talking to, the customer wants to hear what the value proposition is. So in other words, what your product or service will do for them to make them money or save them money. So you've told me what you do, you define the problem, the solution, why I should care. Now the next step of the elevator pitch is that you should describe how you're going to win. So a lot of entrepreneurs actually skip this step because they think that the only answer that can distinguish you from your competition is that you have a patent or something legal that differentiates you from your competition, but that's not the case. Actually, more important in a lot of cases is that you have early customer validation or customers, especially in a new marketplace. That can be critical to set you apart from your competition. It could also be that you have thought leaders in your management team, or you have people with connections that no one else in the world has. These are all differentiating qualities that explain how you're going to win. So you've told me what you do, you've defined the problem, you've told me the solution, You told me why I should care, and how the problem, or how you're gonna win. Finally, what's the close? What's the ask? So here, if it's an investor audience, this is fairly straightforward. If we all watch Dragon's Den, you know that you have to say, you're gonna raise X dollars for Y% of the company at Z dollar pre-money valuation. And that's pretty standard, but if it's a customer, again, you have to go back to what they wanna hear. What's the value proposition? How do you quantify that in a way that explains how they're gonna make money or save money based on your solution? But there's many other things you can ask for in a close. You don't have, if you're not asking for a customer relationship or investor relationship, you might be looking for a co-founder, or you might be looking for an advisor or a mentor or a joint venture partner, different things that help you move your project forward. So to summarize, 6 key elements. 6 key elements are number 1, what am I at, 6 or 5?
Sorry.
Number 1 is that you want to tell me what you do. Number 2, define the problem. Number 3, explain the solution. Number 4, tell me why I should care. Number 5, how you're going to win. And number 6, and most importantly, the close. Now, before I close, I want to use another quote, this time by Mark Twain. Twain said that in this life, all we need is ignorance and confidence, and success will be sure. And I'd like to add, an effective elevator pitch won't hurt either.